الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. And welcome to our daily Fiqh Hour. Obviously, we were absent yesterday. The reason we were absent yesterday, well, we weren't absent, but we didn't have a Fiqh Hour yesterday because we had our lecture after Jummah. Finished late, and also we have other scheduled matters as well. Tomorrow, inshallah, there will also not be a Fiqh Hour because we have an open Q&A session here in the Masjid, which I'm assuming will be available on YouTube afterwards and anyway, so you can watch it. So we will be having particularly youngsters. I hear a lot of conversations about young people in particular kind of questioning their faith, questioning or trying to understand novel practices that are going on and how they should be trying to deal with them. So it's predominant for them. So inshallah, there is an email, info@masjid-umar.org.uk or just .org.uk. So it's info@masjid-umar, masjideumar.org.uk. So you can send your questions in. Those questions then will be read out, inshallah, in the session, and there will be answers to them. So therefore, there'll be no Fiqh Hour tomorrow as a consequence. And also, normally I have a contemporary lecture after Asr, so there won't be that either. So anyway, without further ado, let's get on to the questions. Obviously, we've had some that's come already via the Markaz al-Ifta wal-Qada. So let's jump on there first, inshallah. So where are we? So the first question we have is, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. What is the ruling for a person who intentionally misses a fast without a valid reason? So obviously a fast is a compulsory act. It is made compulsory upon people unless there is a legal excuse. So if a person doesn't have a legal excuse, then they don't have an excuse basically to not fast. So it is compulsory upon them. It is fard. To not do a fard act is a serious sin, a major sin. If a person does not do a fard act because they think it's not applicable to them, or they do not accept its compulsory nature, then that can even take that person out of the fold of Islam. But if they accept the compulsory nature, they know it's compulsory, they know they should fast, but laziness, CBA, or whatever you want to call it, they don't do it. Okay, if everyone is doing it, they don't want to do it. Then for that reason, they become sinful. Okay, they become sinful, and therefore there is, they will have to make tawbah afterwards. That's the first thing, and then they would have to make qada as well of that fast. Assalamu alaikum, inshallah you are well. Please answer the following questions. In the video uploaded yesterday, which would be possibly 2 days ago now, what does it mean to be a Muslim in the modern world? You mentioned the importance of a Muslim abiding their word, including employment terms they have agreed to. How does this apply to working hours, especially with the increase in hybrid working? If one does less than their contracted hours, would this make their income haram? It could be that they are efficient and can get the work done in less than the standard 35-40 hours, or work based on a list of daily, weekly tasks. Alternatively, one could also be in an office working with little speech marks for 35 to 40 hours and produce no real work, which would be far worse than working less hours but completing set tasks. In either case, would this make their income haram, as technically they're not working as per the agreed terms? Yes, when you look at your contract, it depends what contract you have. Most modern contracts are hourly contracts in the sense that you are contracted for certain hours. They are not task contracts. What that means is that if you had a task contract, then it doesn't matter how long it takes. If someone says to you, I want you to paint my room, come to my house and paint my bedroom. So they say, fine, and I will give you £300 for it. Now you can take a week, you can take 1 hour, you can take a month. That's up to you, and you will get paid £300. But if someone says to you, I want you to work for me for 7 hours, 8 hours, and your role is a lab technician, and a person who works 7 hours should get this number of experiments done, then you are working for 7 hours. You are not working just to complete those tasks. So if you work your socks off and finish them in 3 hours, you can't then sit for 4 hours. You have paid for your time. That time you are contracted to that company. You are not there to choose what you want to do. Many people I know, I've heard this conversation repeated so many times that, oh, I do my work quickly. Well, that means you're not getting enough work. So you have to go back to your line manager and you have to say to your line manager that the task you're giving me, I'm finishing in 4 hours. So you need to give me more tasks because I'm contracted to work for you for 7 hours. Okay, but people don't do that, unfortunately. What they do instead is they finish their work quickly and then that's it. They just start sitting around, go to sleep, get up late, whatever other excuses they make. So you have to understand modern contracts are that they basically buy your time. They buy your time for 37 and a half hours a week. And that means you are contracted for that person for 37 hours a week. And they may give you some flexibility and say to you that you can work those 37 hours between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m., however you see fit. And that's what in my day used to be called flexi time, where basically we used to have core hours where you had to work, everybody had to be work on those hours. But then you had flexi, you can either start early or finish late, whichever one you chose. Or you could work 3, 4 days, long hours, and then finish a little bit early on Friday, as long as you did your core hours. That means you are contracted to do that role, whatever it is, laboratory technician, okay, for those hours. If, like I said, you're finishing your work quickly, you're supposed to report that to your line manager so that they work out accordingly that they do that. Now, there are some kind of unwritten rules that, for example, if you have a little conversation with a fellow colleague, you know, you go to the bathroom, you have a tea break, things like that, then obviously that's kind of accepted in the modern working environment. It's not like you have to literally be working. Again, if I give you an example, when our parents first arrived, my father, he didn't get a lunch break. He didn't get his lunch break was actually watching the machines. He was a weaver. He had to watch the machines whilst eating. There was no separate place to eat. And also, for example, he would have no breaks and he would be expected to work literally because as soon as the machines came on, he had to run around to make sure that every time a string tore or a string broke, he had to quickly connect the string back together again. And that's the same we would have done if we were hired. So if I, for example, hired a shepherd 1400 years ago or 1300 years ago, and I said to him that you're going to look after my sheep and you're going to take them out every morning and bring them back every evening, and you're responsible to look after the sheep, then you would get paid for that job. If I was a blacksmith or if I was a cobbler, then I would get paid by piece. Somebody would come in and say, can you make me these shoes? Okay, and I will pay you, whatever, 50 dinar. Now it doesn't matter. I could do those shoes straight away for him. I could do those shoes for him. I could do a little bit every day so that every customer is satisfied, that everybody gets their shoes after a 3, 4 day period. It's up to me now. So we are, as we call it, piecemeal. We are not paid by piecemeal in the sense that per product, per item, we are paid by the hours that we have to dedicate. So technically, if one did violate their contract, then yes, that money that they're not doing anything and they're just sleeping and resting would come under hurma. There's no doubt about it because that's not what's been agreed with this person. If, on the other hand, you don't want to work 7 hours and you say, I can do that work in 4 hours, then fine, just tell your boss, I can do that work in 4 hours. You're losing money. Only pay me for 4 hours. Okay. So this needs to be done. This happens quite often, unfortunately. I've seen it, it's become widespread now, especially with this working from home. And if a person, if the other point is that sometimes people who work in the office can Skype all the time and they might do that same amount of work over a 40-hour period, yet this person at home can do that work over 20 hours. Then that person who's Skyping is problematic. It's not that you're working better. So there's a problem in both places. That person is Skyping. He's expected to work for 40 hours, and this is the expectation from his work. Uh, can you please explain the correct way to pay fidya? Would it be valid to pay for someone who meets the eligibility criteria for months worth of food they need to feed their families? Well, fidya would be obviously based upon the number of days that you are required because you're not fasting. And if those number of days works out for that family, then that's absolutely fine. It just depends how many family members there are and whether it ticks all those boxes. Assalamu alaikum. If a woman is mentally, emotionally incapable of giving her husband his intimate rights, is she allowed to get a divorce, especially if she's afraid of being answerable on the day of judgment? Context: she was repeatedly abused as a child and suffers from CPTSD. She's explained this to the husband. CPTSD is complex post traumatic stress disorder. Thank you very much. She's explained this to the husband, asking for a separation or patience, but refuses and demands his rights and gets angry. P.S. I've done many hours of therapy, but it seems the marriage itself is very stressful and affects the kids' lives. There's nothing wrong if, obviously, if a woman cannot meet her husband's needs, for her to say that I'm not emotionally, mentally capable of doing this. Every time I come near you, obviously, we don't know what the circumstances, what the sister has suffered. It seems, obviously, it seems of a certain type of abuse. And so she's saying that if ever I, anyway, come near a man or whatever, then it starts triggering certain things and I'm feeling, and I can't do that. And obviously, if you're asking for if the man waives his rights and said, that's fine, let's take it easy. There's no rush. I've got love for you and I will be patient and we'll work through this and whatever, then fine, he can put his rights on hold and that's a decision he makes. But if he's still saying, no, that's not, I'm not having it, I still want my rights. I'm married to you, you're my wife, we'll do as you say, then obviously, and she's saying, I cannot do that, then clearly this is problematic. So rather than her having to face consequences and she's asking for a divorce, then obviously the husband should reflect over that and consider it. Assalamu alaikum, dear Mufti Amjid. Alhamdulillah for your time in Itikaf. Continue to benefit us as well. If one is traveling during the solar eclipse on Monday and cannot get to congregational salah for kusuf, is there anything else one can do on their own? Alaikum salam. Not really. There is no, this is something which is done in congregation. So there's no real, there's no alternative at all. I guess all one can do is kind of reflect and ponder over the greatness of Allah and the power He has over His creation. Bar that, there's nothing else which is required. We'll be jumping a new chap soon, inshallah. I'm just going to go through the gents. What criteria should be used to determine when it's permissible not to fast due to illness, especially when there is uncertainty about whether fasting would adversely affect one's health? One person called asking, I've developed a chest infection and struggled through Tarawih. Is it wise for me to fast tomorrow? I already missed one fast today, but I don't want to miss any more, especially since I'm choking on phlegm every 5 minutes. In these scenarios or similar, how would you gauge whether you should fast or not? I think I've said this before, that fasting is obviously going to be difficult. For anybody to say that fasting is not difficult, we're in cloud cuckoo land. You are literally not eating and not drinking for 18 hours, 19 hours a day. Now, even if a person can, survive quite comfortably not eating for 18, 19 hours, not drinking is clearly has an impact on performance, has an impact on the way we think. But on top of that, obviously affects the sleeping, as we know. And even also when you're, in a congregational setting that we find ourselves in. So therefore, it is going to be a challenge. It is difficult, but that is the maqsad of it. Hajj is difficult. Performing Hajj is challenging. It's difficult. Okay, especially those of us who travel about 18, 19, 20 hours, if not more. And then as we get through immigration and we get on a coach and arrive at our hotel, we've probably done in excess of 24 hours traveling. Okay, and then we try to perform the ritual act of Umrah, which can take 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours. So we're dehydrated, we're tired, whatever. It's challenging. Okay, so therefore, that's not a reason not to keep a fast. That's not a reason to do an act of worship. It is supposed to push us. And I think also because we're leading more and more comfortable lives, we've just had this conversation now about the way we work and say maybe the way our fathers worked and the way our grandfathers worked. Our work is, just sit in front of a laptop and maybe press a few buttons every now and then. Their work was hard manual labor, you know, hard manual labor, working hard, long hours, 12 hours, 14 hours shifts. In my case, again, going back to my father, he used to have 3 jobs where he'd do Monday to Friday at one mill. And then on the Friday night, he'd go to another mill and work nights, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then on Saturday during the day and Sunday, he'd go to another mill. So he didn't sleep literally. I think he only slept like 7 hours, 8 hours from Friday till Monday. That's the sacrifices they made. Why? Because they arrived here with nothing. So they had needed to. But now, we do like a 7 hour day and it's press every button every couple of minutes and we're breaking into a sweat and thinking, oh, life's difficult, life's hard, and how are we going to get through this life? And, maybe we should be shortening our fasts and maybe we should be going by Makkah times or something like that and all the rest of it. So society is obviously becoming spoiled. Society is becoming weaker. There's no doubt about that because the more ease we build around ourselves. Making a cup of tea in the old days was get a pan, put water in it, and stand over the stove for 15, 20 minutes. Now, you flick a button, it's gone. Cooking some food, you have to stand over a stove and cook it. Now, stick it in the microwave, 30 seconds, ping, it's done. So, the world is changing, and as the more easy it becomes, the more we become softer, and it become easily uncomfortable with hard work. So a person has the fuqaha will say that either this is going to cause an exacerbation of a serious illness by him fasting, potential loss of limb, or potential death. So it's that kind of grade of then you are excused not to fast. Not something where it's going to be uncomfortable. Like we said, of course it's going to be uncomfortable. You are not eating for 18, 19 hours. Of course it is. You're not sleeping properly. You're not drinking. Of course it is. And you're obviously trying to push with your acts of worship. So you're reciting a lot more. And obviously reciting still affects the head, doesn't it? It gives you a slight headache if you're reciting for several hours, makes the thought dry. If you're standing in prayer, and all things of that nature. So those what we considered as excuses. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Can you clarify where the 55 miles starts from? Is it from boundary or to destination? It's from, we asked this yesterday or the day before, or a couple of days ago now. It's from one's point A, setting off from home, to arrival at point B. Okay, so it's destination to destination. We don't count the boundary. The boundary significance is only that you will do qasr from that time point onwards. That's the only boundary thing. If you're still within your city and salah time comes, and you pray in full. But if you've gone out of your city, then the qasr applies. That's the only point where qasr applies. Let's just see if something is going on here. So it is better in all scenarios to fast, and then if things are extremely bad, to break. Absolutely. Remember, we do not predict the oncoming of an illness, because you have to base your judgment at the time of suhoor. You base your judgment at the time of suhoor. It's like, for example, I will look at the time of Asr now, about whether I should pray Asr. Not, I'm going to get tired at Isha time, so should I pray Asr? Of course that, okay, this doesn't make sense. Why would anybody say that? So in the same way, it's like the compulsory nature of the fast comes in at suhoor time, the imsak, and now stop eating, now stop drinking, right? And that's as soon as suhoor time kicks in and fajr time starts. Now, if you're fit and well and healthy there, why are you not fasting? Because you're making an assumption that I'm going to get unwell at 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock or 7 o'clock. So it doesn't work like that at all. Let me see if there's anything else that's come on the questions. Okay. Okay, that's for tomorrow, because it's come via the email. Big Balba is on it, man. He's already screenshotting and sending. Yeah, so inshallah tomorrow, the Fiqh Hour, for those of you join now, will be at after the Dhuhr, isn't it? The Dhuhr is 1:30, so about 1:45, 1:50, inshallah. It will take on from there. Yeah, ladies and gents. But obviously, you have to be in London. So if you're not in London, you can still come. I shouldn't really exclude people, should I? You can set off town, come down, book a hotel. Don't think it won't be that exciting. Feel free to do so.
79 Queens Road.
79 Queens Road. Oh, sorry, the address. I was thinking that's where they're going to stay. 79 is given his home address. 79 Queens Road, Walthamstow, E17, 8QR. Chelmsford, for ladies are coming in from Chelmsford Road, and chaps are coming in through the normal entrance, inshallah. So yeah, it's particularly, especially if you've got young people at home who's always asked you difficult questions, awkward questions, and you've not really had the answer to. Now is the chance to drag them into the masjid, inshallah, and say, not necessarily, we'll try our best to, at least satisfy their questions, and they should be able to ask questions, because at least they're asking questions. With that, inshallah, there's some level of curiosity, and we'll move from there. Okay, we'll now move to the you can still ask questions on the YouTube, but I'm also going to take questions from the chaps here now. Gee, bismillah, another long list.
Really, just the first.
Yeah, I always start with him because he's sat on the right, so that's the only reason. And then I open it up, so at least Sunnah is done.
I'll do two questions.
Or will you now?
For now.
Now he's picking it. Give him an inch, he takes him out.
Everyone has a chance.
We're doing a series. Kidding.
When the summer months coming, there's going to be lots of flies bobbing around and lots of mosquitoes, this, that, the other.
Okay.
Are we allowed to use fly zappers and electronic devices to exterminate?
It's preferable not to obviously kill creatures. So if there's any way that that can be avoided, I guess, if you're running a butcher's or something like that, where there's no way of stopping them. The windows are open, the meat is out. They're going to naturally come to there. And now there's a detriment because they're going to either lay eggs in them or sit on them or whatever. And this is going to be problematic from a food perspective. So there's genuine harm there. So in those circumstances, plus the context, one can do so. I guess if a person's at home, then opening a few windows will do the trick. That will make sure the creature goes. In our house, mashallah, the wasp master is my wife. So whenever a wasp comes in, everybody runs. Yeah, and then she comes in with the dustpan and brush it and sort of captures it and drags it outside and throws it out. So there's no need to kill them. There's a way of getting shut to them. I guess if there's a wasp lying in a room where you've got a baby, and you're going in and out or something like that, and you can't catch it, then there's some possibility, that's the only context I can think of. But again, you could catch it, take it out, close the windows, so you know that another wasp is not going to get in. So I would say that should be avoided.
The second question. The adhan of Maghrib. Are we permitted to stand?
There's the only thing that there is with regards to, there's nothing specific with Maghrib Salah. No, nothing at all. The only thing is that, for example, when the Mukabbir says Qad Qamat Salah, Qad Qamat Salah, that's normally a time for people to start standing up. But also, if you look in the books of fiqh, as soon as he says Qad Qamat Salah, the Imam is supposed to say Allahu Akbar immediately. Yeah, immediately. He's supposed to say Allahu Akbar. Why? Because otherwise he's making the Mukabbir a liar. Qad Qamat Salah is in the past tense. Salah has started. All right, Salah has started. And obviously, he's not started. The Imam's not even on the Musalla yet. And the other thing that we have to be a little bit careful about is once he said Qad Qamat Salah, Qad Qamat Salah, we should start almost immediately. So that's not a good time to start checking the stuff, checking if the gaps are there and making I'lan. You see, a lot of Imams do that. Mukabbir is given the Iqamah, and then the Imam, once the Iqamah is done, then the Imam starts saying, "Oh, brothers, can you move this? Can you do that?" He's doing the airplane directions. You shouldn't do that. You should just tell the Muadhin to stay quiet. Say, "Brothers, come forward." G. So as soon as he finishes, because our people aren't ready for it. So if he just says "Qad Qamat Salah," Allah Akbar, everybody say, "Well, ye kya Imam kya kar raha hai? Yaar, namaz shuru kiya, wo khatam nahi kiya." Jahiliyat, isn't it? That's the only reason why it's excused. And we say, okay, the Imam should just wait until Allah Akbar, la ilaha illallah, and then do it. But he should, as soon as that does, he should immediately he should have his hands ready, literally. So that as soon as it's finished, Allah Akbar comes straight after. There should be no gap. But there's a lot where the Imam starts talking. For everything. Yeah, this is for everything. Because as soon as the the Muqabbid, the chap giving the Iqamah, as soon as he says Qad Qamat is Salah, Salah started. What was he saying? What does Qad Qamat? Qamat is past tense. Not Takumu. Not Qad Takumu Salah, the Salah is about to start, or Qad Satakunu, the Salah is just about to start, or Qad Sawfa Takumu. He's saying Qad Qamat. Ho gaya, Salah shuru ho gaya.
The extension with certain places in the world where the Mukabbir is given the Iqamah and that should be said before.
Yeah. It should be said, all should be said before.
Not after.
Not after.
My understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, was that the Muqtadis should start making the rows when the Iqamah starts, not before.
That's right. That's normal. That's what he's doing, is he's giving a land to let people know that start coming to stand.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how it's normally. Otherwise, because they shouldn't be dictating. What happens here is that the Imam is the man.
No, so what I'm trying to get is that what would, if the Muqtadis aren't supposed to start their rows until the Iqamah has started, then why would the Imam say straighten your rows?
No. What I'm saying, the Imam should never be saying it at all.
Okay.
Right? But he could say it, brothers straighten your rows before they go forward. The difference here is that what's happened now is the Muqtadis are controlling the Imam.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're saying, start,
yeah. Fixed time on the
yes.
everyone's looking
Yeah.
Yes.
Imam is given such a maqam. He tells you when to pray. He's the lead. He tells you when to pray. He's not your khadim, he's your Imam. So even if it's 13:02 and he's not getting up, he's not getting up. When he starts to get up, then the mukabbir sees that he's getting up, so he then gets up and he starts doing it, and then people are doing that. So they should. The only reason why this is coming in, unfortunately, is because that people don't know how to straighten their rows, and yet everyone is told in every namaz straighten your rows. So it's not rocket science, but our problem is self-discipline. This is our problem. That's why I discussed that the other day. We just can't do things repeatedly, consistently, and we can, first 2-3 days we can be like, mashallah. Day 5 comes in, day 7 comes in, day 10 we start dipping, our performance dips, and then by day 15, like, we're gone. So that's our problem. Why do we need to be told to switch your phones off? We don't know. We're grown men. We need to be told by another man to switch our phones off. If I was to tell my child, okay, all my children are grown up, but if I was to tell my child who's like 10, 11 or something, that don't bring your phone to the dastakhan or something, and he did it 2-3 times in a row, I'd say, yeah, well, you all right, kid? Your brain all right? Are you sure you're my kid? I told you 3 times not to bring your phone to the dastakhan. Why are you bringing it? Sorry, Dad. I won't expect him to bring it again. He's a 10-year-old kid, 7-year-old kid. We expect children to come to a maktab and abide by the most strict rules and behavior, and then grown men can't do that. What's going on? How are we then gonna march on liberating the world? Really? Can you guys come here? Oh, no, we fancy going that way. No, you have to come this way. No, but we fancy going that way. Okay, yeah. So we're here for a reason. We are in the situation we are in for a reason. It's not that it's just Allah's being unfair, or we're here for a reason. Till we sort ourselves out, then inshallah watch what we can achieve. You did your two. Yeah, is anyone here before we jump across? I'm just going to do that kind of right thing.
So my brother-in-law, he lives probably like 20 minutes away. So his local mosque, their Fajr time starts today it starts at I think 47 past, and then
Our Fajr starts at 47.
No. So his one,
His starts at 47.
Yeah,
4:47.
Yeah, and then but he comes to my house to stay over a lot, like with my sister.
Gee.
So then, say today he's staying over, and then our Jamaat's at 45 past. Yeah.
But his Jamaat starts at 47.
But his Fajr starts 47.
Yes.
Is it okay for him to come here to join Salah because it's like the
local? It will be problematic because according to the position he's adopted,
yeah,
Salah hasn't started. But because it's a couple of minutes, right? We shouldn't be that strict to the letter, right? Because I know we do that, but for the very reason that we don't want people to start thinking like, you will make that comment that it's not the real time. This is the real time, so let's just take a quick swig of that water. Yeah, it's natural, isn't it? Right? Because you think, I know that's the time they've written, but that's the art time, and that's the real one. But then that's probably not the real one as well. It's probably another minute or two that we got there. Do you get what I mean? So that's the reason why timing is put in that specific way. But really, a lot of these are based on algorithms, in which these are predicted from now for another 1,000 years. Right? So it's not actually that much of a science. It's a lot of prediction. So in his case, that's why I always, whenever I say this, I'll make it very specific. If he joins, it shouldn't be problematic. In the current scenario, with the couple of minutes gap that we just spoke about, not like he just sort of applies it now in all circumstances where the gap might increase as we head into towards summer. If you don't go, you don't have to.
Question about masa'a socks. So on socks that you
Socks or khuffain?
Khuffain.
Right,
But then you get those the fabric ones.
Yeah, but I'll still call them like similar to khuffain.
Yeah,
I wonder, because as soon as you say the word sock, it will naturally bring a certain type into your head, and then it becomes confusing.
I use the generic type, but yeah,
Gee.
that's not to be correct.
Gee.
If there was and I know that they don't have to be waterproof.
No.
Yeah, but if there was to what extent can they be a little bit holy, or to be able to or not be able to do something?
It talks about 3 small toes. So about an area of about, I don't know, 50 pence piece, maybe a little bit bigger than a 50 pence piece area, which is quite big.
Okay. Does that mean that if there was a hole of, say, about a 50 pence piece, or a couple of small holes that would be equivalent, and they don't reach that sort of size, so then you can still do a sound?
Technically, yes.
But even though obviously a hole, no matter how small, have loads of water and
Correct.
your foot could get wet.
Correct.
That's irrelevant.
Correct. If you ever put hoofs on,
Yeah.
and then get a bucket of water and stand in it, it
Yeah.
wouldn't take long for your feet to get wet,
Yeah.
because the leather, where it's stitched together, it's not waterproof. It goes straight through.
Yeah.
It'll go straight through the stitching, because that gap is sufficient for water to go through. So it's not the waterproof. It's water resistant. That's the better way to describe it.
Right. Can I just be a bit sort of a bit pedantic? Is that 50 pp's roughly for each sock, or
I think, from memory serves me well, it's for each sock, if memory serves me well.
okay.
Yeah. Again, I'm doing that from memory.
With the Hanafi's opinion on Qiyamul with Jamaat.
As in praying in nafil.
Yeah, so like in my local masjids, they at like midnight or 1 a.m. you come together and the imams there and 10 types of people just
Yeah, we don't consider it. We consider it disliked.
because you should do that worship with yourself.
That's correct. We disliked. The only way it's described is that if a few friends happen to get together, and I think the number's less than 4 or something, and you do it collectively, then there's some gunjaish. But no, that should be done individually. That's the thing. We're doing a lot where we want to do things collectively, and like where people will do like a Quran khatam together, where women will get together in a house, and each person prays a para or something, and they do a khatam afterwards. It's just that we can't help but do things collectively, and then as soon as you're doing things collectively, then that riyah thing comes in, doesn't it? The show bit comes in. Are they watching? Or I did 3 paras today. Then that comes in. So this is the danger. This is the danger. So our position is we don't consider it valid.
One more. Do you know the whole thing about like the age Aisha anha was when Saddam married her?
Ji.
I recently saw something saying about they looked at Asma Jahna's age and said based on this, when she died, on the gap between her and Aisha anha, that Aisha Jahna was actually 19 years old. And she
It's a version that's being given, but normally that's given by sort of apologists in particular that say that it was because she was 19 rather than 9. When the Prophet ﷺ passed away, Aisha then was around 18 years old. Okay, 18 years old. That would have been, all of the wives were senior women when he married them. Some, significantly old. So if that had been a marriage to an 18-year-old woman, she'd have spent no time with it. Through Aisha radiallahu anha, we gain nearly all the most intimate practices that go on between husband and wife through her mainly. Through some other wives, but mainly through her. She is the 3rd or 4th highest narrator of hadith. She's a teacher of many tabi'in as well. So I'm just making a structure that in order for her to spend 9 years with the Prophet ﷺ, and she was going to die at 18, she had to marry him at 9. You understand? I'm just looking at it mathematically, right? For her to share the deen with us, for her to, now people will say, is that right age or a young age or whatever? The Prophet is saying it's permissible, and she's considered as a woman. And we live in a completely different era. We live in a completely different time. We know, for example, even in some of the states in the US, the marriageable age is still quite low, 12, 13, things like that. We know, for example, that even in the UK, go back those sort of times, there were different ages. So the age is just a factor that we never take into consideration. That's why we feel that, having an age of 16, having an age of 18, having an age of 21 as figures for, permissibility of consensual sex or permissibility for drinking alcohol or voting or whatever, they seem like arbitrary lines in the sand. You'll have some of your children or some of your niece and nephews, whatever, that will reach 16 and you think, this one's going to be a bit of a struggle, and he's making wrong decisions all his life until about sort of 26, 27, 28 years old. And then you might have another niece or nephew like 13 and they're kind of like running the house and they think, what the heck? This kid's going to be like, so we're all different. What we like to do is kind of nationalize, and like we had the national curriculum. I went to the school when there was no such thing as national curriculum, and therefore the person learned according to their capacity. So the teachers would deliver it and you would engage with it in that way. But then we all need to fit in a box. Okay, we all need to accept, understand certain things. So then the national curriculum comes in and whatever, and then you've got to do GCSEs at 16. And not everybody's ready to do GCSEs at 16. That's why people flunk them. And when they flunk them, it's like they're, waste. And when they're waste, they sort of go around and end up feeling like they're a loser, and then they end up going towards crime or something like that. So, so there's a lot of that. So that did not exist in that time. So if it was something he was encouraging, then he would have married all his wives that age. He didn't. So it's not something he encouraged. It was a practice that went on. He was engaged in that practice. He's also married a cousin. That doesn't mean that we continue only to marry cousins. Again, the permissibility there. He married the divorced wife of Zayd radiallahu anhu. And it does not mean that we should then marry those orphans that we've raised and they divorced from that. We should marry them. He just showed the permissibility in these sorts of schemes. They showed that. So, for instance, let's just say, I know it's hypothetical, but let's just say that women only live till the age of 14. Say we lived in it 100 years from now, 1,000 years from that, women didn't go past the age of 14, they died. All right. Now, if we said, you can only marry after 16. Yeah, I know, but all the women are dying at the age of 14. So our Sharia is applicable for all of time. For all of time. And the society changes. Society is going through all sorts of phases. Look where we are right now. 10, 15 years ago, if a person was attracted towards the same gender, they would say that's a mental condition. Now, if you speak against it, you could get arrested. So look how that's changed in 20 years, 25 years. How can society change so much? Where will we be 30 years from now? We don't know. So until, as I said, we look at, the Sharia lays foundations for all times, for all societies, for everywhere. And therefore, that's what we agree by. And all this it's nothing to do with a genuine cause of concern. It's to try to undermine issues with the Prophet ﷺ, or issues with Islam in order to eradicate Islam as a system.
If a Muslim was to say that, then what would I say?
You think, this is awkward. Yeah. How many of our children are getting married at the age of 9? How many of whatever? They don't happen like that. So if it was a practice we would encourage, if it's a practice we would promote, then you can see it, right? Okay, there's that going on. So, it's we just have to take that with that thing. Yeah, there's an apologist argument that the age is wrong and the age was actually 19 years old and things like that. Absolutely, there is. So,
when it comes to Fajr Azan, the part where you use Salam, Salatu Khairun Minan Nawm, what's the correct reply to that? Because in your reply to Azan.
So that's all Barata, isn't it? Yeah. You spoke the truth.
Because I never knew that.
Yeah. That you spoke the truth. Well, Barata Yani, you've said is pious, pious is good, is khair in what you've done.
Just on that point about answering, so in the Iqam, could come to Salah is the reply to that Allah wa
Wadama.
So if there's so if the Imam Sahib was, what you're saying, if the Imam Sahib starts then that you just start with the Imam, you don't do all the replies.
Because he would do that after Qad Qamat Salah.
Okay.
Yeah, he wouldn't do it. As soon as the Qad Qamat Salah is finished, he would say Allah. He would join it straight away. So, yeah. No. Yeah. Do you want to jump in or should I do this one? Whichever way.
Well, I'll do it if you don't
Yeah,
want.
yeah,
If you do suggest, if you read it, what's reading by yourself, you either forgot or you didn't realize you'd done the sixth when I worked, and you completed your salah. Afterwards, you realized what's the sort of remedy of that.
You didn't. You forgot that you read a sajda tilawah.
No, yeah, we read the sajda tilawah. Yeah, you either forgot to do the sajda and you just carried on the rest of your namaz as normal. Yeah, just
in salah.
Yeah, in salah. Yeah,
in salah, it's gone then, isn't it?
Yeah.
In salah, it's gone.
It's gone.
Yeah, you're supposed to at the time.
It doesn't void the salah though.
No, it doesn't void the salah because you it's hoped that when you went into ruku, it's accepted within that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You're supposed to do it because in salah, in a reading outside of salah, then you can make up for it afterwards.
Okay.
So even if you remember that, Fajr time I prayed it and I didn't do it, okay, I'll do it now. But in salah, it has to be done then.
It has to be immediate.
It has to be done because even in Taraweeh, there's an opinion that you shouldn't do sajda tilawa
Okay.
because it confuses the people behind you because it's bigger gathering, isn't it?
Yeah.
Similarly, if you make an error in the extra takbeers in Eid Salah as well, there's some gunjaish, and that's only because of the masses.
But there's no such sahwa or anything like that.
No, because once it's gone, it's gone.
Okay.
You're supposed to do it at that time.
Okay.
Look, something like related to that.
Yeah.
So when you're in Salah, let's say you're reading Surah Iqra, and then you're like, so then, the final ayah is when you'd go down.
Yes.
Would you go down, come back, and then just go straight down?
No, you'd have to add at least a few ayats to it. You wouldn't just go up and then straight back down again. You would have to at least add a few ayats. So you'd add the ayats of the following surah. There was once an event in a masjid where they have Asr early. There were many ulama and our imams there, and we prayed Asr before its time. Asr early is in Shafi time. Yeah, that happens. That happens. We've discussed that as an exception in the Haramain. That obviously, if you're in the Haramain, you're praying in the early section. It is preferable not to do this because obviously, once you view that you are still in Dhuhr time, because that's what it is to the Hanafis, they're still in Dhuhr time. If you view you are still in Dhuhr time, then obviously it's problematic for you to be praying Asr when it's still in Dhuhr time. So one should avoid this, or avoid the situation that comes up like this. Oh yeah, your list, mashallah.
Can you shed some light on the Saffs and how to coordinate the Saffs? Is it the heels on the line, or is it the toes on the line?
It's the heels on the line.
Because certain countries you go to, they adamant that it has to be the toe on the line, and obviously I know for sure it's like weaving.
It's different sizes.
How do you educate those people?
It's hard to educate people. That's the thing, isn't it? It's hard to educate people because the imam is responsible for the masjid, or the ulama that are responsible for the masjid. If the ulama are empowered to be able to fix that, then it's for them to fix. So the heels are there, so the ankles line up. The ankles line up, the back lines up, because obviously we all have different heads and chests and whatever. So our back is relatively straight. Not many people have a curved back, but we have curved fronts. So the back is straight, the heels are straight, the ankles are connected. Obviously, people are the same height, shoulders are connected. If they're not the same height, then obviously shoulders are not connected, and that's it. That's the aim, that the Saff is straight, and that's just for the completion of the Jamaat.
Usually, like if a masjid that you go to, or musalla that you go to, doesn't take heed from what you're saying about the angles, and they choose to pray by having the toes on the line. Should you avoid that, or because obviously the
No,
wrong?
you raise it with the ulama there.
Well, there's no ulama. What if it's just like a musalla?
Then you got to sit the guys down and have a conversation. You got to sit the guys down, have a conversation, say, guys, I think we're doing this wrong.
So there's no narration to say for the toes. It's just
No, because it says ankles to ankles, and the ankles can only be next to each other if your heels are next to each other, because they cannot be next to each other. Like your brother said there, if you've got long feet, some guys are size 6 and some guys are size 11. You're going to be where his foot's just about joining his shin, and he's going to be like stuff behind. So so you just have to sit folk down and sort of say, look, guys, we're doing this wrong. And if or you was a big banana, whatever, I said, no, I'm not a big banana, but let me just gather some evidence, put it in front of you, and let's sort this out, because this is wrong. And hopefully people will have open enough hearts to accept that, and that's it. You change your position through that way.
second question.
Fourth question. Second question. Okay, that was our first.
Time hungry. And obviously, alhamdulillah, it's very, very good to see youngsters coming to the masjid, but they put a musaf on the floor. They put on the floor, do sajda tilawat, or they have an unnatural put on the floor. Is there any permissibility, or should we get really shocked if you see that on the floor? Is there any pen on
No, this is to do with more adab, is etiquettes. So some people, for example, won't stretch their legs towards Qibla. Some people will stretch their legs towards Qibla. Some people will put the musaf on the ground. Some people won't put the musaf on the ground. So there's not, it's not like it's you're doing they're not doing it out of I disrespect the Quran, so I'm going to put it on the floor. They're not. They're putting it because it's something next to them and they're placing it there. So you're going to remember, particularly again in that kind of Indo-Pak world that we come from, we'll kiss it, we'll do this, we'll do that. We've given this kind of, we give respect, but we may have gone slightly a little bit, a little bit over the line, a little bit in what we do, but that's just the way we are now here from that part of the world. So, but then the Arabs and the Africans might have a very different connection with the Muslim. So, I don't think we should sort of, because this is when it comes to cultural differences. You see it more in this part of the world. You don't see it in Bradford, where if somebody put a Muslim on the floor, you probably get beat up or something, because the understanding is very different. It's all Indo-Pak, hardly any African or Middle Eastern folk praying there. So it's a different thing. Here it's a mixed bag. So you have to have a standardized approach when you're dealing with such a diverse community. That's why it's very, very different for London. Very different. It's a very diverse community, because you go back to Pakistan, all Pakistanis. You go to India, Indians. You go to Bangladesh, Bangladesh. You go to Morocco, Moroccan. London is unique. London is unique. You got, it's got virtually every Muslim country is here, and you've got to try and meet people's needs without being offensive, but at the same time keeping some level of standards. So at least there's a standard, what that is. So it's very difficult for masjid committees to try to keep everybody happy, but at the same time maintain standards as well. So it's not an easy task. Whereas it's an easy task when you've got one culture group, one nationality, us. It's a lot easier to manage them. When you got all this, and you got to avoid being racist, you got to avoid being nationalist, you got to avoid, they're Nigerians out there, what do you expect, making comments like that. That's something you have to be careful about, because the Prophet of Islam's masjid had all colors. Go to Makkah, it has all colors. Go to Masjid Nabawi, it has all colors. So in a way, that's a unique quality of London, mashallah, that. And you have so many divergent legal positions behind you, so many divergent cultures, societies. Alhamdulillah. If the Ummah is going to come together, it's going to come together from London.
Just on the point about the Muslim, when is it necessary to have wudu to touch the Quran? As in, if the Quran was just not open, so you're not touching the pages, but you're touching the hardback cover, or does it have to have thing? When do you need wudu? When don't you need wudu? Is it just for the pages, or is it the cover as well? Because I think there's some debate probably about it.
If the Musaf, is considered as everything which formulates that one book. So anything which is one piece of that book. So if the cover is attached to the book, then it is a part of the book. And if it is part of the book, then it carries the same hukum as the book. Okay. And similarly, so therefore, if you're going to hold it without wudu, then it needs to have a cover on the outside. So when you hold it, even though the cover is touching that, but it's separate from there, so then it gives some viability there. So that's where the cover comes in from. Yeah, I agree that there's some, it's not usually discussed, but there will be some differences. Reason being is that if there's a plate with a verse of the Quran, then you can touch the plate, but not the bit which has a verse of the Quran on it. So that clearly shows that it's the verse part which is more honored. Sometimes you have a mushaf which has a large margin on the outside, which has got nothing written in it, and the mushaf is just like a bit in the middle, and it's just got all like nice artistic all on the outside. Now, could you technically use those to hold the page and turn it without wudu? So there is that ambiguity which exists. But I think to give an easier answer is to just consider that if it's part of the book, it's the book, and if it's not part of the book, it's not part of the book, and then that just makes life a lot easier. Otherwise, then there's so many little kind of gray areas, and it just you're giving a more confusing answer than a simple, straightforward answer. What is the ruling on transplants today, especially people receiving organs from animals like pigs? Quite complex topic. People receiving heart transplants, kidney transplants from pigs. I've written on this, not on pigs specifically, but on transplants, organ transplants. And I think because it's Ramadan and we're not going to go too deep dive, and that would probably need research conducted on it. In short, obviously, we can use impermissible means in impermissible medical interventions in time of necessity, but as and when something is a necessity, whatever is a topic for research. But there is I've written something on it's called harvesting the human. Okay, if you Google it, you'll find it. It's on my academia page as well, or it should be on the Olive Foundation Telegram group, inshallah. Happy?
One question you can oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I think mine will have a long answer. So
Okay. So, I'm easy.
be summarized or
Go on.
another time.
Yeah.
What is the main, like, I don't actually know what Shias believe and what makes them different to Sunnis.
The thing is that the Shia, sometimes we have a understanding of a people, and we, put them all in one group, right? So we were having a conversation with the brother downstairs, the academic, and he was talking obviously about the Braille community and the Debunking community. So I said, to me, that's a little bit historical now. I don't kind of look at the two communities like the Braille community and the Debunking community, because the way I look at it is there's one community that moves the Prophet ﷺ beyond his capacity as a messenger. Some add qualities of godship to him. And then there's another community that's more strictly in their theology, clearly move the Prophet ﷺ away from being any godly man, and he's a man. Now you find, if we're going to label that as Braileism, then you'll find Braileism within Deobandi circles. Okay, I've heard people, exonerate the Prophet ﷺ way beyond what he should be, and therefore have they now suddenly become Brahmanis? Well, they're not. They don't self-identify as Brahmanis. They identify as Deobandis, and then you'll get some Brahmanis who are quite strict with their theology, and they'll say, "Yeah, we respect the Prophet ﷺ, but we don't say it's God. We don't say it's godly qualities." And when I say "Yeah, Muhammad," I'm only saying it in the sense that I'm not asking him to call on help from him. I'm just sort of saying it in as a phrase. So, all right, okay, I didn't know that. So, when you start questioning, you start to see a little bit of so-called Deobandism here, and you're seeing a little bit of brilliance. So rather than labels, which confuse people, you got to look at the person's theology. So Shiism is the same thing as well. There's some hardcore extreme Shiism, which will go as far as saying that Sayyidina Ali was the one who should have received revelation, and not Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Some will say that the Khalif after the Prophet alayhi salatu should have been Sayyidina Ali, and accuse Sayyidina Abu Bakr and Sayyidina Umar of changing parts within the Quran. Others will say no, Sayyidina Ali was obviously the cousin and the son-in-law. He should have been given Khilafah, but he wasn't. That wasn't a good thing. So you see all these different gradations, all these different gradations of opinions that will exist. So therefore, rather than saying, oh, all you lot there and all you lot here, you just inquire from the person what his theology is. Now, the only problem is the concealing, which also the Shia had to learn, which was to hide their faith, because they were persecuted minority. Roughly, Sunni Muslims are 4-1, 5-1 ratio. 80%, 80-odd% of Muslims are Sunni, and the rest are considered to be Shia. So because of that, they would do taqiyya, which is when they were asked, they wouldn't say what their faith was. So therefore, we have a bit of a problem when you say, "What's your theology?" and he thinks, "Oh, what's going on here?" And he just tells you what you want to hear. Now, arguably, Shia no longer persecuted. Not well, maybe they are in Iraq, maybe they are in Pakistan, maybe they are in Afghanistan, but they're not in the UK. Okay, they don't feel they're going to hide their faith. They do mashallah processions on main roads. So if a person and you ask them, and they say to you that, "Oh, I think this," and he's actually saying something which is changing the Quran, or attributing something, denying the prophethood of, then that's a black and white, isn't it? This brother is not Muslim. Okay, but if it's a case where he is, saying that Abu Bakr made mistakes, saying Umar made mistakes, they took what was the Khilafah of Sayyidina Ali and quickly, snuck off and agreed a deal and didn't give it to him, then we'll say he's a fasik. Would you say he's a kafir? Well, if he still says that Sayyidina Abu Bakr is a Muslim and Sayyidina Umar is a Muslim, and the Prophet ﷺ was a prophet, and Allah has revealed the book, and the Quran is perfect, hasn't been changed, then which bit can you start calling him out to say, actually, this is words of kufr? So therefore, rather than, brandishing, I remember, again, going back to our history, the Indo-Pak world, obviously there's issues in Pakistan, like I told you, there's always been issues, bombings, Shia and Sunni, and then obviously in Afghanistan it's happened, in Iraq it's happened, so it exists. So therefore, we kind of bring a lot of them to this country. So rather than being...
The Salah they pray first, like cowards.
It's very much so. There's a lot of their practices aren't too dissimilar. I think one of the things they do is that first they break very late. Uh, I said I've not studied the Jafri because the Jafri madhab is their main madhab, is their legal school because they have a theological school. Obviously, there's certain things that we'll have to look into as to the imamat concept because in the imamat concept they might in some cases apply prophethood to them. So it's such a different. There's so many different views. They might apply prophethood to them. They might say that. Because it's interesting, isn't it, that what do we call the man who is going to return and restore the Muslim Ummah into great power again? Yeah, but what's the title we give him? Imam. What's that title? Who uses that title? Yes. So it's interesting, isn't it? Right? We don't call him Khalif Mahdi, do we? Or we call him Imam Mahdi. So it's interesting that the word Imam, and that's what they use, Imamat. They don't use Khilafat. She use Imamat. And their view is that in 974 Hijri, the occultation, the 12th Imam went into hiding. He went into the other realm, and he is the Mahdi that's going to come. So therefore, it's all we can say is that if that person's theology, whatever he identifies as, because there's this other thing, it's self-identity, isn't it? Someone can identify themselves as this or that, the other. However they identify, their theology has to connect up with sound theology. If it connects up with sound theology, then you cannot consider him to be a non-Muslim. You may still consider him to be a fasik because he's saying things which clearly is, not the norm, not the right thing to say.
I ended up in Shia mosque in Milton Keynes. And I didn't know. I was asking for the thing, and yeah, I just played by myself and quickly got off.
So, what is braverism?
Bravery, the one you just said.
Bravery.
So is that something else? Braverism.
I think they're trying to.
All right, okay. What about washabi?
Wahabi.
Oh, okay. And what do we identify as? I don't know who you are. So I can't say what you identify with. But again, that's gonna go too deep. So we're already nearly coming up to 60 minutes. Fortunately, I said it's 6:30 today. So we get a little bit of rest. Should you say salam to okay, let me just see. I'm gonna have to press N because I can't see the text. Should you say salam to Shias who don't take from Umar and Anas? Abu Bakr radhiyallahu anhu? I don't know what that means of taking from Umar. I said until a person you can identify as a non-Muslim, then it should be avoided. If a person is, you cannot do that, then obviously, so because there's another hadith which mentions in it that a believer is that person who prays in the direction that we pray in and eats the food that we eat. And it's quite a broad definition of what a believer is. So one has to be a little bit careful that they're not quickly extraditing and, excommunicating rather people from the faith when you don't know. So if you don't know, it's best just to keep that open thinking out there. Sorry, I mean that theology do we follow? I follow you. Oh, you follow me then. Alhamdulillah, you're on Ahlul Haqq. You got nothing to worry about, brother. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Does solar eclipse mean no moon sighting? Absolutely, it means that. It means that that is impossible because you get all three spheres lining in each other, lining with one another. That's how you get an eclipse. And therefore, it's impossible to see a hilal with an eclipse because it's physically all covered. So nobody should be able to see the hilal on Monday night to declare it's Eid on Tuesday. Obviously, we won't be doing that anyway because it'll be our 28th night. So why would we do that? For those who follow the Saudi, then obviously they won't. They will still go out to look because they started a day earlier. So they'll have to go out and look. But if they come back with something, then I'm not going to say I'll eat my hat because it's quite a big hat. If I had a smaller hat, which was made out of kebabs, then I would say I'll eat my hat. Well, I'm not the look at that hat. I'm not going to eat my hat. But you can be surprised. What do you do if your local masjid follows Saudi? I guess you just got to be a resistance and keep being an agitator and trying your very best to get people to reason, get people to understand and speak to your committee and just keep pushing. That's all you can do. Each person is going to work at his own level and do what he can do at his own level. Inshallah. But what we do, I don't know where you're based, Hamza. But there will, I'm sure, be an alternative place for you to pray when it comes to your Eid Salah. So don't worry about that. Or you're based in Manca, you're Manchester. Yeah, there'll be plenty of options up that way. Yeah, plenty of options that way, inshallah. Okay, so Alhamdulillah is our longest Fiqh Hour. literally, my wife will be pleased because it actually was for an hour.
Oh.
And she doesn't have to rib me and say, how was your thick minutes today?
But can I just make up because I forgot it is then.
We're going to go past an hour here. Great, Venta.
Topic issue, so that's why. So, like, I'm convinced, alhamdulillah, that we should do UK citing, and alhamdulillah, that's what I've been doing for quite a few years now. But like, why do people still follow study? What is their justification for still doing that?
It's just a habit because the people, especially the women, want to know if it's Eid early. Right? They don't want to wait till, how long you're going to wait to find out what Eid is today on Tuesday night. We're going to be here till about 9 o'clock.
Because the common thing that we always hear is, and you probably know this too, is that, well, X, Y, Z, big scholars, they're still doing it. What's the matter?
Yeah, that's another thing, man. So the main thing is they're doing it not because of the fact that this is the problem is that the scholars are waiting for the people are waiting for the scholars. So everybody's stuck in this little conundrum now. Okay, do you know nobody actually announces Eid based on Saudi signing? The Masjid just announces it. No committee sits and announces it because who's waiting on that? So the Masjid itself does it. How does the Masjid do it? By just checking what Saudi have said on Twitter. Is that sound system? Of course it isn't. So what's happened now is the horse has bolted. Democratization of fiqh. We should have been in the Jummah Bayan. Yeah, I know that's what it is. This is exactly the point. The tail wagging the dog. This is exactly the point I was making. It's no longer about what's right and what's wrong. It's where the majority is. Right? We decide by that now. Not about right and wrong anymore. That's long gone.
There are so many big scholars in the UK that it'd be difficult to argue that tail is wagging the dog. I mean, these are influential people. It just makes me wonder why isn't things changing?
Some will be, for example, that but like I said, the declarations are being made because those scholars are making those declarations. Those scholars don't make those declarations. No one's making those declarations. The masjid itself will make the declaration. So wherever your local masjid is, wherever it is in Bolton or Dewsbury or whatever, you will find that masjid will make the declaration. The masjid will say Eid Salah at this time and that whatever. They won't say always Eid tomorrow. They'll just say Eid Salah at this time, whatever. That's it. And you'll start to see Eid Salams going around the groups from about Asr time, right? So which Maulana has come out, which Sheikh has come out and made that elan? No one's made that elan. So the people will do that. And now it's just providing a service for the people. So until that changes, but the thing is, like I said, is the cat is out of the bag now. So nobody waits. I said they go straight onto the Sky TV on and they say Eid. And then the women and men and everyone are getting ready. Then they ring in the masjid up. What time is Eid Salah? What time is Eid Salah? The masjid gets under pressure. The committee starts shaking. Oh, we need to let people know we're getting phone calls. People are turning up, knocking on the door. We've got committee members, people who are involved with that here. You tell him what kind of pressure you'll go through. As soon as Maghrib takes place, phone calls will start. Is it Eid tomorrow? Is it Eid tomorrow? Is it Eid tomorrow? Is it Eid tomorrow? Why do you know that the voices get raised? Eid tomorrow, Eid tomorrow, Eid tomorrow. And that's the one time I've seen, mashallah, the ulama of Wifaq, especially those who are imams of masjid say, Musab, you need to make a decision quick. Come on, we haven't got time to wait. You've got to make a decision. We wait for it. It's one year. So much cameras, what's been going on today, Aram se baat kar. When it comes to when it comes to Eid, we want to ASAP. Why? People are ringing. The phone is ringing off the hooks. Rings, and they're getting messages coming on the phone. You'll see that again on Tuesday. Where basically, declaration is going to be made, they'll be ringing, and we might not know, if there's no UK sighting, which we're hoping, inshallah, there's a UK sighting, but if there's no UK sighting, it could be an hour and a half for Morocco sighting. So that's like 9:30. Exactly, and then people are saying, look, should we come for Tarawih? Should we not come for Tarawih? So that's the issue, you see. Whereas Saudi is so convenient. At 3 o'clock. It's convenient, isn't it?
But I just see that there are also some scholars, I don't want to mention names, some scholars who aren't pushed around. They'll do what they want, but yet they, for this they follow Saudi.
Yeah. No, I doubt that there's any. We'll have a private conversation as to who you're referring to, but I doubt there's any of that kind of caliber that will rock the boat. As I said, there's certain things obviously I can't share in a public forum either, because I'm privy to it because of my position. There will not be those people who will stick their head above the parapet. There's no one that I know in the whole of UK that will stick their head over the parapet on this particular point. Even those who disagree with it in private, they will say we disagree with it, but they'll say we need to get people moving. We need to get people moving. They won't publicly come out and say that.
Like latest one Masjid.
Yeah.
All Imam Muftis, all of them,
Yeah.
they following local
side.
and committee. They want the Saudi.
That's right.
That's why last year there is fighting going on.
Yeah.
And after even the Clapton Masjid, same thing. Mufti Farouk,
Yeah.
they following local.
Yeah.
And the committee, they
Yeah.
following Saudi.
And why they're following Saudi? It's nothing to do with ulama. It's because the public demand it.
Yeah.
And if the public demand it, you got to do it.
Even Golden Sagaria Masjid, same thing.
Yeah. Public demand it. So it's never been about the ulama. Trust me. It's the public demand it. Anyway, let's just do this last couple of things because we're going way over. What's wrong with you guys? I know. What do you do if you're local? Are we doing that one? In Tarawih prayer, can we recite Quranic du'as in sujood? Arguably one can. Arguably one can, but it depends if I'm assuming you're praying at home, but if you're in the masjid, obviously you've got to follow the imam. But if there's opportunity to do so, if they're Quranic ones that have been permitted, then there's no issue there. So the mosque committee, why do they have so much power? Why does the mosque committee have so much power? Because the mosque committee run the masjid. They are the powers. They are the legal power because they have a legal setup. Whether it's a charity or a non-profit organization, the mosque committee with the names of the trustees are the legally registered people who make decisions for that place. Now, sorry? Yeah, that's it. Now, they may have a method where members can vote or whatever. That's up to them, what method they have for people to raise their concerns. But the bottom line is this: the masjid committee are running that entity. That's it. Not the ulama, the masjid committees. Okay, and that's where everybody keeps saying it's ulama this, ulama. It's not. It's the masjid committees. They will decide that. And until the masjid committees will only do. I don't mean this in bad. Are you part of the masjid committee? Okay. They'll only do what saves the skin for some of them because they don't want hassle. They don't want aggro. They don't want people, fists and arguing and shouting. They want an easy life. There'll be so much of the brave souls like Mr. Omar. There'll be some brave souls that will stick out and take the heat and take this flack from the community. But the community will get flack. You can ask Haji Sam afterwards. Do the community give you headache that why isn't there Eid Salah on every day you go? Now you do that for 6 months, you do that for a year. After a while, you think, what's the point? Why go through this? Especially if Gunjaish behaves, man. Gunjaish par kar lo. And put it at the door of the ulama. Like you said, senior ulama, some senior ulama, not so. Put it on them, it's their headache. And if someone comes to me and says, brother, why are you doing Eid on the day that Saudi declarations done it when it was all wrong, this, that, they will say, well, it's not us. I'm just a mere mortal. Ask Hazrat, ask other Hazrat, ask other Hazrat. Don't knock on my door. So this is the issue. Everybody just waiting for somebody else to move. And until that happens, it will be. It's gone over an hour due to the success of the Fiqh Hour. Side effects of being MashaAllah. He has this 1 hour 10. Anyway, we need to go. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.